Bonjour, this is Fabulously Delicious, the French food podcast. This is the podcast that's all about the cuisine that is said to have founded modern cooking. French ingredients and dishes have been the starting block for many of the world's best chefs and cooks. And on Fabulously Delicious, you'll learn all about those dishes and ingredients, as well as get to know more about fabulous French foodies. I'm your host, Andrew Pryor. Enchanté.
Enchanté.
My life changed when I competed on MasterChef Australia, and now I'm living my best life right here in the French countryside. Cooking, eating, meeting wonderful locals, food producers, chefs, home cooks, drinking amazing wines, eating some of the would you believe there's more than 1,500 French cheeses, or so I've been told, and sharing these fabulous experiences with you, my fabulously delicious audience. I hope you're enjoying them. Today, we dive into the fascinating life of a French-born chef who revolutionized the way Americans think about food. From his humble beginnings in Burgundy to becoming a celebrated chef, author, and television personality in the US. His journey is one filled with passion, resilience, and an unrelenting love for French cuisine. Join me as we explore his culinary adventures, his partnerships with legends like Claiborne, and how he brought the flavors of France to American homes, one recipe at a time. Sit back, turn up the volume. If you're not driving, pour yourself a glass of wine, break a baguette, add a bit of saucisson, maybe some of that delicious cheese, and enjoy today's episode of Fabulously Delicious, the story of Pierre Franey. Pierre Franey was born on Thursday, January the 13th, 1921, in the quiet village of Saint-Vinnemer, nestled in the Burgundy region of France. At the time of Pierre's birth, Saint-Vinnemer was home to just 361 people, a charming village that felt more like a extended family. Here, life revolved around the simple pleasures, communal meals, seasonal produce, and a strong sense of tradition. Pierre's father, Aristide, was a man of many talents, working as a local blacksmith, plumber, and even the town mayor. His mother, Charlotte, played an equally important role of homemaker, instilling in Pierre and his brothers the value of hard work and the love of a home-cooked meal. It was here in Burgundy, surrounded by the fertile lands of one of France's most gastronomically revered regions, that Pierre's passion for food was born. His earliest memories are a testament to the rich culinary traditions of his homeland. Marinated rabbits, slowly simmering in robust red wine, snails bathed in garlic butter, their aroma filling the air, and fresh trout caught from the Burgundian canals, a delicacy that seemed to leap from nature's pantry straight onto the plate. Pierre was one of 4 sons, and though he grew up with siblings, it was in the kitchen alongside his mother and grandmother that he felt truly at home. The kitchen was the heart of the Franey household, and where the cracking of the wood and coal-fired stove provided a comforting soundtrack to the rhythm of daily life. From a young age, Pierre was captivated by the magic of cooking, the transformation of raw ingredients into something greater, something shared. He earned the affectionate nickname Pierre le Gourmand. This reflected his appetite for good food, but also his budding love for the culinary arts. By the age of 13, Pierre's family recognized that his talents in the kitchen needed to be honed professionally. So they made a life-changing decision to send their young son to Paris, a move that would set him on path to culinary greatness. He began his apprenticeship at Chez Tenant, a brasserie located on the bustling Place de la République in Paris. This experience was humbling. 6 days a week, Pierre scraped vegetables, plucked chickens, and scrubbed butcher blocks spotlessly, all without any financial compensation. In those days, it was considered an honor simply to learn. And Pierre, with his insatiable curiosity and tireless work ethic, absorbed everything like a sponge. Though the work was grueling, his dedication paid off. Before long, Pierre found himself moving up in the culinary world, securing a position at Douan, one of Paris's most prestigious restaurants, located on Place Gallion. It was here that Pierre began to spread his wings, working in a kitchen that employed a staggering 100 staff members all serving 300 diners a day in 3 formal dining rooms. During his time at Draw, Pierre earned the nickname Mignon, a term of endearment from his fellow kitchen staff, but also that reflected the camaraderie and sharp-tongued banter that ran through the brigade. There's a particularly vivid memory that Pierre often shared from this period, a story that encapsulates both the high expectations of a Parisian kitchen and the fiery temperament of its chefs. One day, Pierre was tasked with preparing an omelette. Nervous, he agitated the pan a bit too much, producing an omelette gourmet, a wrinkled, imperfected dish, which earned him a sharp spatula smack on the head from the head chef. Enraged, Pierre retaliated by throwing the omelette back into the chef's face and stormed out the kitchen. To his surprise, the sous chef chased after him, and after a flurry of apologies, Pierre returned to his post, though the name Mignon was never mentioned again. As his skills developed, so did his reputation. Pierre took positions at other prestigious establishments, including the iconic Café de Paris, the chic Fouquet on the Champs-Élysées, and the verdant Prix Catalan in the Bois de Boulogne, and also the exclusive Pavillon Royal. Each restaurant provided a new opportunity to refine his craft, and Pierre eagerly soaked in the influences of Paris's most renowned culinary institutions. Pierre's talents didn't go unnoticed. In 1939, when the New York World's Fair opened, Pierre was chosen to represent France at the French Pavilion's restaurant. At just 18, Pierre was appointed Premier Commis Poissonnier, or First Assistant Fish Chef, a testament to his extraordinary skills at such a young age. Leaving behind the familiar streets of Paris, he set off to New York, embarking on an adventure that would mark the beginning of his long and storied career in the United States. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. As World War II erupted, the French Pavilion was forced to close, and Pierre returned to France, where he faced induction into the French army. Yet the winds of change blew once again, and before long, Pierre was called back to New York to resume his post as Premier Commis Saucier, or First Assistant Sauce Chef, when the Pavilion reopened in 1940. As the war escalated, the Pavilion's restaurant was transformed into a permanent fixture, and Pierre was offered the position of Chef Poissonnier. While awaiting the restaurant's grand opening, he sharpened his skills, worked in the banquet kitchen of the Waldorf Astoria, a towering icon of American luxury. By 1942, as the United States entered the war, Pierre made a pivotal decision. He enlisted in the US Army. He was sent to Fort McClellan, the boot camp, where he flunked cooking and baking because he refused to sharpen knives and peel potatoes the GI way. Interestingly, Pierre was offered the coveted role of cooking for General Douglas MacArthur, an opportunity many would have considered a dream post. But Pierre's heart was with his countrymen, and he declined the position, preferring to join the infantry and fight alongside his fellow soldiers in Europe. As a machine gunner, Pierre saw the horrors of war firsthand and earned a Purple Heart for his bravery in battle. This chapter of his life, while far removed from the kitchen, added a layer of resilience and fortitude to his character. In 1948, Pierre married Elizabeth Betty Chardonnay. Elizabeth was French, and her father, Auguste Chardonnay, employed Pierre during his stint at the Waldorf Astoria. Pierre cooked for his own wedding, preparing roast fillet de boeuf with truffles, raised endives, celery root puree, followed by a cheese course and chocolate and strawberry mousse, a favourite of Elizabeth's. They also, of course, as they are French, had champagne and caviar. After the war, Pierre returned to the US and resumed his culinary career, this time as the executive chef of Le Pavillon, one of New York's most esteemed French restaurants. It was here that Pierre's reputation in America truly took off. Le Pavillon was more than a restaurant. It was a culinary institution. It attracted the rich, famous, and powerful. However, life at Le Pavillon was far from smooth. In 1960, Pierre had a dramatic falling out with the restaurant's owner, Henri Soulet, over labour disputes regarding wages and working conditions. The argument escalated into a full-blown staff walkout, marking the end of Pierre's tenure at Le Pavillon. But as one door closed, another one opened. In 1960, Pierre and an aspiring young cook, Jacques Papin, were hired by Howard Johnson to revamp some of his restaurants. This was more of a 9-to-5 type job, which left Pierre time to concentrate on his family as well as his new love, writing about food. Together in East Hampton, Elizabeth and Pierre raised 3 children, Claudia, Diane, and Jacques. Pierre would spend weekends, vacations, and holidays hunting, fishing, clamming, skiing, gathering mussels, tending to their vegetable garden, and smoking fish. Cooking was for Pierre both a passion and a form of relaxation. In the mornings, he'd be seen at local markets near his East Hampton home, often accompanied by his Brittany Spaniel, Kiki, or Labrador Retriever, Luke. He surveyed the fresh vegetables, consulted with the butcher, stopped at the local fish shop, all the while dreaming up a recipe for the day. Merci for tuning in, fabulous foodies. If this episode of Fabulously Delicious hits the spot and you love the French food adventures, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners who love French cuisine, like you. Thank you so much for your support and your help keeping the magic of Fabulously Delicious alive. Dreaming of cooking in the charming town of Montmorillon? Well, now you can make that dream a reality with my fabulous Vienne residencies. From May to October, I invite you to experience a delightful stay that includes comfortable accommodation, a warm welcome apéro, and an all-day cooking class filled with culinary magic, and so much more. But that's not all. We can customize your experience with a range of extra activities. Come, join us for an unforgettable journey of flavors and friendship. For more details, visit andrewpryorfabulously.com. I can't wait to cook with you all. The falling out with Le Pavillon's owner, Henri Soulet, led to Pierre's fateful meeting with Craig Claiborne, the New York Times food editor, who had been covering the Le Pavillon debacle. Claiborne, ever the astute observer of talent, recognised something special in Pierre. The two would go on to form a dynamic culinary partnership, one that would shape the way that America cooked, ate, and thought about food for decades to come. Pierre's partnership with Craig Claiborne wasn't just a working relationship, it was a friendship that spanned decades and revolutionised American food journalism. Together, they wrote countless recipes, articles, and reviews for the New York Times. It was a collaboration unlike any other, blending Pierre's classical French training with Craig's journalistic eye for detail. Their synergy in the kitchen led to some of the most influential food writing of the 20th century, and their combined efforts helped introduce French cuisine to a broader American audience. Pierre and Craig spent many weekends in the kitchen of Pierre's East Hampton home, experimenting with recipes that would later appear in the New York Times. Their cooking sessions were often turned into smaller dinner parties, featuring an eclectic guest list that included artists, authors, and celebrities, all gathered around Pierre's table. These Saturday night dinners, fueled by creative energy and the freshest ingredients, were a microcosm of the culinary revolution that was happening in America. Pierre, always the consummate host, relished these gatherings. His hands-on approach to cooking, whether it was whipping up a souffle or carefully filleting a fish, was captivating to anybody lucky enough to watch him. Pierre's home in East Hampton was not just a place of culinary creativity, but a sanctuary where he could reconnect with nature. Weekends were spent clamming on the local beaches, hunting for game, fishing in the nearby waters, or tending to his vegetable garden. His love for the outdoors complemented his passion for food, as he believed that the freshest, most local ingredients were the key to great cooking. Whether he was gathering mussels, from the shore or plucking herbs from the garden, Pierre approached every ingredient with reverence. It was during this time, in the early 1960s, that Pierre and Craig made their debut at East Hampton's annual Fisherman's Fair. This fair was a lively local event, and Pierre and Craig quickly became a highlight, serving classic French dishes like moules marinaise, mussels, white wine, clam chowder, and delicate crepes. Long lines formed as fairgoers waited for a taste of the duo's culinary magic. Pierre's presence at the fair was a testament to his down-to-earth nature. Despite his fame, he never lost touch with the joy of feeding people. In 1975, Pierre's career took another leap forward with the launch of his own syndicated column in the New York Times, titled The 60-Minute Gourmet. The column was a breath of fresh air for home cooks everywhere. In a time when gourmet food was often seen as the domain of professional chefs or special occasions, Pierre's column made French cooking accessible to the average person. His recipes were simple, elegant, and, most importantly, prepared in under an hour. It was a revolutionary concept. Delicious food didn't need to be time-consuming or complicated. The origin of the 60-Minute Gourmet column is a charming story in itself. According to Pierre's daughter Claudia, the idea came about during a casual visit from Arthur Gell, the legendary editor of the New York Times. Pierre, an avid fisherman, had just caught a local fish and whipped up a quick, delicious meal for Arthur and his wife, Barbara. Gelb was so impressed by how quickly Pierre created the dish that he suggested that Pierre write a series of simple recipes for the Times' New Living section. Pierre initially resisted the term gourmet, finding it a bit too pretentious for his taste. But Gelb convinced him to run with it. The result was a widely popular column that was syndicated to over 360 newspapers worldwide. It resonated with readers who craved high-quality food but didn't have the luxury of spending hours in the kitchen. Pierre's writing style was approachable, filled with warmth and personality. He had a unique ability to demystify French cuisine, breaking down complex techniques into simple, easy-to-follow steps. He made readers feel as though they could master any dish, whether it was perfectly seared steak or a delicate souffle. His recipes were practical, but they never sacrificed flavour or elegance. For many, the 60-Minute Gourmet became a weekly ritual, something to look forward to in the Sunday paper. Pierre Craig controversially made headlines around the world in 1975 when Craig won a public television fundraiser sponsored by American Express. The prize won was dinner for two with an unlimited budget, any restaurant in the world. They chose a small but very expensive restaurant in Paris called Chez Denise. At Chez Denise, they ate their way through 31 courses. It took 4 hours to eat the meal that included Iranian beluga caviar and champagne. Their meal also included 3 soups, a parfait of sweetbread, tartelettes of quail mousse, a gratin of lobster and truffles, fillets of wild duck in red wine sauce, oysters in beurre blanc, foie gras in aspic, a chaud froid, a woodcock, fillets of bœuf, and ortolans en bruschette, which was small whole birds eaten in one bite. Wines served included a 1918 Chateau Latour, a 1928 Chateau Montoul Rothschild, a 1969 Montrachet Baron Thorond, a 1917 Chateau Lafite de Rothschild, and a 1961 Chateau Petrus, and a 1929 Roman Conti. 3 desserts completed the meal, served with a 1928 Chateau de Guillaume, followed by an 1835 Maderon. The bill was more than $4,000, including taxes and tips. This is the equivalent of around $21,000 today. Pierre's influence extended beyond the pages of the New York Times. In 1989, he made his television debut with Cuisine Rapide on public television. The show, much like his columns, focusing on making elegant French-inspired meals quickly and easily. Pierre's charm and expertise made him an instant hit, and the show was soon followed by others, including Cooking in America and Cooking in France. These programs cemented his status as one of America's favourite French chefs. And in 1995, he won the prestigious James Beard Awards for Best Cooking Show for Cooking in France. His final show, Cooking in Europe, continued his exploration of continental cuisine, showcasing his deep knowledge and passion for the food of his homeland. Pierre's television success only deepened his connection with his audience. He was beloved for his warm personality, quick wit, and approachable teaching style. Watching him cook was like being invited into his home kitchen, an experience that was both comforting and inspiring. His ability to bridge the gap between professional and home cooking made him a household name, and his influence on American cuisine continues to be felt today. In addition to his television shows and columns, Pierre wrote or co-authored 15 cookbooks, many of which became culinary classics, including A Chef's Table, 60-Minute Gourmet, More 60-Minute Gourmet, the New York Times Cookbook, Classic French Cooking, Foods of the World, Veal Cookery, the Seafood Cookbook, From Classic to Contemporary, Pierre Franey's Kitchen, Cooking with Craig Kilborn and Pierre Franey, Pierre Franey's Low-Calorie Gourmet, Craig Claiborne's Gourmet Diet, Cuisine Rapide, Pierre Franey's Cooking in America, Pierre Franey's Cooking in France, and Pierre Franey's Cooking with His Friends. Pierre's legacy extended far beyond his own kitchen. He served on the boards of several prestigious culinary institutions, including the Culinary Institute of America and Johnson & Wales University. He was also the president of the Vital Club, a French food industry organisation founded in New York in 1913. His contributions to the culinary world were recognised by the French government, which awarded him multiple honours, including the National Order of Merit. Sadly, Pierre Franey's life came to an unexpected end on October the 15th, 1996. He was aboard the QE2 ocean liner, giving a cooking demonstration to an audience of 400 people when he suffered a stroke. Despite receiving immediate medical attention, Pierre passed away shortly after. His wife Betty was by his side on the ship. Pierre Franey left behind an incredible legacy. His 3 children, Chloe, Diane and Jacques, along with his 7 grandchildren, continue to honour his memory. Pierre was laid to rest in East Hampton, where his love for the outdoors and his passion for food had flourished. Betty, who passed away in 2008, now rests beside him, and their gravesite is lovingly maintained by their family, with herbs growing as a living tribute to Pierre's love of cooking. Pierre's daughter said at the time, "My sister, my brother and I are proud and honoured to have known and loved him. My father gave us a love for food and a deep respect for those individuals in the culinary arts. He will be sorely missed." In the world of food, Pierre Franey will always be remembered as a trailblazer. He brought French cuisine into American homes, making it accessible, enjoyable, and above all, delicious. His recipes, his shows, and his books continue to inspire generations of cooks. From aspiring chefs to home cooks looking to add a little French flair to their meals, Pierre's life was a celebration of food, family, and the joy of sharing a meal with loved ones, a legacy that will live on for years to come. According to Emily Weinstein, the editor-in-chief of the New York Times Food and Cooking, readers still email about Franey's recipes years later. Those dishes are still beloved, she says. He had an eye towards simplicity that makes a lot of his recipes feel fresh, even though they are decades old. And writing partner of all those years, Craig Claiborne, said about Pierre, "He knew all the aspects of cuisine, no matter what. I could say, 'Pierre, let's do something with this kind of fish.' And he'd say, 'We could do this or that.' Then we'd get into the kitchen and cook together. What would come out would be perfection." Planning a trip to Paris, or maybe you're one of the lucky ones who call Paris home. I've had the joy of living in Paris, and let's just say I've eaten my way through the city of lights, love and incredible food. With all that delicious experience, I knew I had to share it with you, my fabulously delicious audience. Because, well, if you're here, I know you love French cuisine as much as I do. That's why I created my first book, Paris, a fabulous food guide to the world's most delicious city. Inside, you'll find top picks for the best boulangeries, cafes, chocolate shops, fromageries, patisseries, wine bars, and so much more. Whether you're planning your trip or already wandering around Paris this year, this guide is packed with the most up-to-date recommendations to help you eat and explore like a local. Get your copy at andrewpryorfabulously.com, and yes, I offer a signed and gift package version. You can also find it on Amazon, including Kindle version for instant access. Bon voyage and happy eating. If you're tuning into Fabulously Delicious, I know you're a fan of France and its incredible cuisine. Why not take your love for our French food to the next level? Follow me on Instagram at andrewpryorfabulously for a daily dose of delicious inspiration, mouth-watering recipes, and behind-the-scenes peeks into life here in France. I'd love to hear from you. Slide into my DMs and share your thoughts on Fabulously Delicious and your favourite French dishes. Let's connect and celebrate the fabulous world of French food together. If you enjoyed this episode of Fabulously Delicious, the French Food Podcast Story of series, then make sure you check out previous episodes where we talked about other fabulous French chefs that have made history in one way or another in French cuisine. We've discovered the father of French cooking, some would say, Marie-Antoine Carême, Auguste Escoffier, who set up the working processes in today's commercial kitchens, Eugène Bragier, who, what some would say, is the mother of French cuisine, and, well, at least one of the most important Mère Lyonnaise, and another fabulous French woman who founded the acclaimed Le Cordon Bleu cooking school, Elizabeth Bresson. To learn more about these fabulous French chefs and cooks and their stories, then please check them out on Fabulously Delicious, the French Food Podcast, the story, and search The Story Of. That's it for another episode of Season 4 of Fabulously Delicious. Had you heard of Pierre Franey before? What's the most fabulous thing that you learned from today's episode? Let me know by contacting me via Instagram at andrewpryorfabulously, or you can email me on contact@andrewpryorfabulously.com. I love to chat with you all. We could have a chat about Pierre or other fabulous French chefs if you like. I love talking to people about food, and especially French food. Thank you for listening, and remember, you know what my motto is: whatever you do, do it fabulously. Merci beaucoup, and bon app.